Welcome back to a new episode of the YESS Impact podcast. Today I'm here with Tobias Reichmuth. Toby, you are the co-founder of Maximum, which is the longevity company builder. And you're also an investor on Höhle der Löwen, which is the TV show, the Swiss equivalent to Shark Tank, I would say. You built your own first company, I think at 21, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and you've invested in over 20 startups already. Mm-hmm. Also, you built up SUSI Partners, which is focused on climate change infrastructure. And it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
When you look back at your younger self, what would you say was there a part of your way of the way you developed over the years that would really surprise your younger self?
It's a good question. I think what I would not have thought when I was 14, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Probably I knew that when I was 7.
Yeah.
So it's not a surprise that I was an entrepreneur. I would not have thought that I would go to so many different fields where I honestly had no clue of. As a young boy in the 80s, internet was not even there. And so of business you thought maybe you do import-export, something like that, or you trading houses. That was a bit of general idea. Later I thought, maybe I'm going to develop a mountain bike brand because I was doing mountain bike races. But that I would have gone into everything from human resources. I built a company, then renewable energy infrastructure, cryptocurrencies, and now longevity. I think that would have surprised 14-year-old Tobias.
Oh wow! How did you actually grow up? Like, what was your childhood like? Where was it?
It was in Basel. So I grew up in a pretty normal family. My parents, let's say an educated family. My parents, my father was a teacher, and my mother a psychologist. I would say the cool thing was my parents had quite a lot of time for me. So I was involved early on into grown-up discussions and so on. Maybe also as a single child you have more exposure to grown-ups because there's just there's not so many playing partners outside school or so. But in general it was a cool childhood. I would say what my parents did very well. They never said you cannot do that. They just said, well, okay, give it a try. Probably tough, but go for it. And I think that's the attitude I have today as well. That I say, okay, I give it a try. Let's see if it works out. If it fails, at least I've tried it. But what I hate if I don't try it, if you don't know whether it would have worked, that's frustrating. If it doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't work, it's okay. But at least you've tried.
That's a really good one. Was there something in your childhood where you were like, I want to be an entrepreneur actually?
Yeah, always. That was out of question. I took Monopoly super serious.
It was war.
yeah, that was good at it. I was when I was 7, I was in fair play winning against grown-ups. So I liked business always, and I'm really bad in subordinating myself. Shall I say but in certain set of things, yes, you can if you learn. But just fitting into an organization which is already there with boundaries which are already set is difficult for me. That was always very clear. So for me it was just a question: what kind of company do I want to build? But it was never a question: do I want to build a company?
Yeah, I definitely understand that. We've known each other for quite some time now. One of the last times we saw each other was on the stage of the Start Summit, actually, where we talked about longevity. How did you actually get interested in that topic?
That was in 2016. I was attending Singularity University, an executive program on exponential technologies in the Silicon Valley. And there, the idea of aging is a sickness and death is an option was brought to me. And it sounds like, but when you really think it through, this was something clear to me, like, okay, we have to age and we have to die. This was one of the unchangeable facts. And suddenly you have scientists telling you, well, not necessarily. Today, yes, still, but we're working on it. I found this fascinating. And, of course I did fact checks there, and I was surprised how much science already knew back in 2016. Unfortunately, I didn't have much time to dive deeper in. I was very busy with a renewable energy company, and then I just built the crypto finance group, which is was a busy time. And in 2020, then with lockdown, and I stepped down as the CEO from the renewable energy company, and in the crypto company, I was president of the board, but not in operational role. I had time. And I said, okay, now I finally could really dive into this topic of longevity. And then you could say that was the positive aspect of the lockdown. I had time, and a lot of researchers had time to talk to me because they were not teaching, they were not traveling. And so I really called up guys like David Sinclair, Robbie the Great, famous longevity researcher, and they all had like pretty much immediate time for me. Ask questions, we started a discussion, they sent me some other contacts and so on. And with this I built up a network, and I got really fascinated. Maybe it was also, I was just past 40, my parents just 70, and I thought, okay, that is probably the time you should start doing something.
That's a very good point there, yeah. And I mean, in that field, there's so many fascinating examples. It's absolutely incredible. I remember speaking to your co-founder Mark the other day, and he just gave me a few of the examples and I was mind blown. Can you give us some of the most fascinating things you've seen recently in the field?
Well, the super crazy stuff, which you will never forget, is I have seen how an eye was recomposed with stem cells. And this was it was a mess, this eye. And then in a fast forward loop, you see over 3 months, it became a normal eye again. That is possible today. Is it now something everybody can do? No, this is still early, untested. We need more data and so on, but it's impressive what you can achieve. And in the field of what everybody can do, what I found absolutely fascinating is when you talk about personalized prevention. So what everybody today can do is you can do a DNA test, you can test your microbiome, of course your blood values. You bring this all together and you analyze the data, and then you can come up with very personalized strategies on what you should do for your longevity. So, some people say, you should eat vegan. And I can tell you, maybe not. That depends on your DNA.
Sure.
You should do more cardio sport. Well, maybe, but maybe you should do more muscle training and more strength. So it's super individual, and today we are ready to give this advice to everybody. So this is not something which maybe in 50 years, but no, this is today, and it's underestimated, and it's actionable, and I think this is impressive.
And tell me more, what does Maximum do in this whole field?
Yeah, Maximum is needed because what we have seen in this 2020 onwards, as we do work with researchers, is a lot of results in research are there, but often the researchers, the scientists, don't know what to do next, or don't know how to build a company out of that. So they publish something, and then it's like, wow, but okay, what's next? And if you just throw money at them and say, hey, here you have $1 million, do it, nothing will happen really, because they lack this experience of company building. And so what Maximum is doing is we help researchers and entrepreneurs building companies, and with help I mean we are operationally helping, we are co-founders. We do this together with them, not on the same side of the table, day-to-day work, plus we provide the capital. So we are a bit of a one-stop shop on how to build companies, and this is much needed in that field, of course.
It's fascinating. Where do you see actually for yourself the future of this whole field? What gets you especially excited about it?
Well, the big future would be that you stay healthy until high age. I mean, what you have to know today, the majority of people die of 5 sicknesses or illnesses, and then this is cardiovascular, it is diabetes type 2, it's cancer, Alzheimer, and Parkinson. Okay. When you look back 100 years ago, what do you think people died of?
Oh, no.
Infections.
Yeah.
Why? Because you had a bad infection, there was no penicillin, and you died.
Yeah.
And you didn't get so old that you would develop Alzheimer. Now that's the point. all these 5 sicknesses I mentioned are basically coming from another sickness which is called high age. So you don't have Parkinson when you're 25. You could die of an infection when you're 25 if there wouldn't be penicillin or so. But so all of these sicknesses are highly correlated with aging body. And if you are able to slow down aging, even to reverse it, you will not die of any of those. And the uncomfortable thing of all of those 5 sicknesses is they're not immediate death. They mean 10 years plus suffering, which is really bad for you, for your family, and it costs society a lot. So if you ask me, where do I see the future? I would say in the next 15 years we are probably controlling aging enough that you will not be harmed by any of those sicknesses. That means you still will die, but you will die because of your heart will stop beating. Or maybe you die because of the flu and your immune system is not strong enough anymore. I'm not against dying, I'm against being sick for 10 years.
Yeah.
So these age-induced sicknesses, that's what we need to get rid of, and I see a fair chance that we can do that.
I think this is also where there's a big misconception of people of what longevity actually is. A lot of people just think it's about, oh, you want to live to 200 basically.
True. Longevity, of course, is a how shall I say, it's not a very specific word. What does it mean? In German, it's Langlebigkeit. But how we understand it, it is the extension of health span, the extension of the time you live without any age-induced sicknesses. Not you live forever. Maybe eventually this is coming. It's not what we work on. We work on keeping you healthy until you die.
How do you think the public reacts to the topic at the moment, receives it?
There was a lot of interest in the last 6-7 months, started with media write about it. We feel it, we suddenly now get newspapers and TV knocking at our door for all of the companies we have. We have a clinic here in Zurich, that's Ayun, our longevity clinic.
Just around the corner.
Just around the corner. And honestly, they have now to tell newspapers, sorry, we need to work. We cannot give interviews every day. The TV, no, you cannot come right now. Because for them it's not relevant that the French TV covers them. Even though the French TV is interested because they want to understand what a longevity clinic, personal life prevention clinic is doing. So the interest grows a lot, but as you said before, the misconception grows with it because people don't really read. They read the title, they think, longevity, now the super rich don't want to die anymore. A, it's not about not dying anymore, and B, it's not about the super rich. But many people don't read that carefully. So often when I'm on a podium, there come questions like, but how should this be financed? And then I need to explain, we save money because people are not sick. The last 5 years cost far more than the rest of your life in terms of health insurance costs and so on. We bring the cost down. I think, when people understand that it's about staying healthy, they become interested.
You're also an investor on Shark Tank, on the Swiss version of it, which is called Höhle der Löwen, so the lion's den basically. Of all the startups you've seen there, we've talked about it before, like which ones you actually appreciate the most, but is there one where you say like, damn, I really missed out on investing in that one?
Yeah, and I wanted to invest and we actually had a deal, but they stepped down.
What was it?
What is it called? Yokoi, I think it was. They are super successful, but I think for them it was interesting to be on TV and they already had a deal with investors, so that was a bit uncool. But that would have been a great investment.
I was actually on stage with the founder at the fuck up night of ETH.
Oh, really?
For 1,200 people in the audience.
What did he fuck up?
Oh gosh, I would have to think really well now, But that was a really good session, for sure.
I think you can learn.
Maybe that you didn't invest, I don't know.
Maybe it would have been mutually beneficial, who knows, But to be honest, I think those fuck up nights are good. Because once you are successful, people want to talk to you, and then you give your story, which is always the same. It was hard work in the beginning, but then we became successful. Now, what I think, what the listeners need to know is most of the time it doesn't work out, and it was just hard work and failure. But you don't hear too often about those stories. Just yesterday, I was in Germany. I was also speaking an event there, and the speaker before me was a young female entrepreneur, very sharp, and she came up with a software which basically is able to mimic, well, it's AI, mimic on one of your photos absolute speech. So we take one shot of you, and she will be able to have the AI program you talking in every language, your mouse is moving perfectly, your eye is moving, and so on. So super cool. And they had a lot of customers also from the advertisement sector and so on. You know, they were really successful. And what happened then? The German government or the EU said, oh, we have a new AI legislation. You cannot do this with photos of private people anymore. In US you could. In Europe it was dead. And you know, she talked about that. I mean, I felt super sorry because you could see this. She was a great entrepreneur, moving very successfully, fast. She had like 40 employees, and it was just killed by legislation. Bang! And these things, you know, people also need to hear about those stories because entrepreneurship is super cool, but you should not do it because it's an easy way to get rich. It's not. It's an easy way to learn a lot.
Yeah.
I think the learning curve of being an entrepreneur in first years is amazing. It's far faster than if you're in corporate life. But yeah, the success stories, of course, you want to have one of them, but the chances is big that you don't have. And so that's why I think the fuck up nights are great.
Yeah. There's a social media channel that's very dominant on TikTok, and they interview entrepreneurs, especially multimillionaires and billionaires. And the question is always, have you ever been broke? And there's almost not one of them that has never been broke before, basically. If you had to talk about your fuck up night, what would be your topic there?
I mean, luckily, not so many things. Two things which I liked, dear to my heart, went wrong. One, I supported my ex-girlfriend. She was the CEO and I was an investor and board member. And it was pretty much what I said before. That was a wonderful story, but the Financial Market Authority at the end said no. Everything was prepared. The idea was to basically build a cryptocurrency based on Swiss real estate, where the rental income would be feed back to the cryptocurrency, meaning the cryptocurrency grows in value. It would be a deflationary currency. Amazing, super good idea. Of course, we had like legal analysis done and so on. But at the end, the Financial Market Authority in Switzerland said, no, we think that's a fund, not a currency yet. Super sad. We invested, I mean, she invested a lot of time, money and some time, but it was sad to have, you know, something which should work, it's just not possible. Another one which went south was when the war, Russia-Ukraine started. A friend of mine is from Ukraine. And I decided that I want to, you know, do a charity project, and we said, hey, nobody buys Russian vodka anymore. Let's do Ukrainian vodka. So we called it vodka Zelensky at the beginning.
I remember very well,
Yeah. I mean, at the beginning, the interest was great. Media wrote about it. People bought it online. So we were like, wow, this is cool. And then, I mean, I did everything wrong against the book. What I tell our startups is differently. I had no clue of the alcohol market. I did not do the market analysis. We just started. I put together a team under high time pressure where, you know, nice guys, but none of us was knowledgeable of that market. You should take 6 months to build a team, not 5 days.
Yeah.
It took us 2 days. So we had a running start, early success, and then miserable failure because we didn't understand the alcohol market. You know, it's not that we were welcomed so warmly. Suddenly it said, you know, it's just political, we cannot put it on the shelf. And then you realize that, you know, the big consumers like festivals, bars, they have like pretty tough contracts with other suppliers, and they don't just want a new player in there. So that was a pretty big failure.
That is brutal. But it was an interesting story, I remember it very clearly. Also, before I start my podcast with a guest, I usually do a bit of research on them, even if I know them, just in the case with you. And one of the videos I found of you was from 2008, and was when you just came back from your trip with a van around the world for 2 years. From that trip, do you have any stories that especially stayed in your mind, that especially shaped you?
Loads. I mean, that would kill that podcast.
Give me one of your favorites.
Look, I mean, one thing which is relevant for entrepreneurship or so on is I traveled with a Swiss car, Swiss number plates around the world for 2 years, and also went to Japan. Beautiful country, I recommend everybody to go there, best food in the world, extremely complicated. And I'm not joking now, it took me 5 weeks to get my car out of port. I was for 5 weeks in Tokyo port every day with customs and the police, and don't ask me what, and it felt like in a book of Kafka. It's like you open one door only to find 10 others. They ask a stamp here, you need to again a confirmation from Switzerland, but please translate it into Japanese, but with a stamp that the translation is correct. Oh, it was a nightmare. And eventually I got my car out. I mean, I really, at one point I was not sure if I would ever get my car, and that was at that time my home, so to say, out of it. And this was tough, so blocked me. And sometimes, you know, as an entrepreneur, you always have troubles, always. But sometimes I just think, okay, wow, in comparison to Japan, that's nothing. So it's like, you know, when you think of complicated things, you always can relate back and say, well, that probably was tougher when I was in Japan, so I'm able to do that here as well.
Oh, that's a good story. You've invested in over 20 startups, I think, so far in your life. Is that correct?
Yeah, more.
More even. What are the factors you go for, and what interests you, especially nowadays?
Well, number one, team. Because a great idea with a mediocre team will not be successful. A mediocre idea with a great team will be successful. So you should always invest in the team first. And then, to be honest, what I do now is I focus much more. So I invest with maximum longevity startups. That's what we do very actively. In all other sectors now, I don't do direct investments anymore. And why? Because you need one hell of time to, you know, due diligence, to understand an industry. So I invest in some venture capital funds, which do startup investments. I believe that those teams understand their industry much better than I could. I don't have the time to. The other thing is also, I'm not a friend of this spray and pray. So you don't do a little investment here, there. I can do more when I have a significant share in a company, and then I'm also able to allocate some time. But right now with Maximum, we don't have so much time. That's why I don't do many direct investments outside that.
Yeah. When you look back at your life and you see, okay, you've been very successful, do you think there's like 3 factors that you could name, maybe success factors, maybe little life hacks that you can pass on to other people as well?
Yeah, I mean, certain things, but they're true for me. I'm not sure they're true for everybody, but I would say one of them is be optimistic. So you don't want to find out why it doesn't work, define why it works. That's also why I would not found a company together with a lawyer. Lawyers are trained to see problems, that's their job. And there is problems, so I think it's better to hire a lawyer later on when you are successful, and sometimes you have to pay a high price for a good lawyer, that's fair, that they will keep you out of trouble. But at the very beginning, you don't want to see why it doesn't work, you need to move forward. Second point, I think, is it's a mixture of resilience and adaptation. So don't give up, but also know when you need to adapt. Maybe that business idea like you had at the beginning just doesn't work out, and then there needs to be a certain point where you pivot and say, can we do it differently or so. Difficult, but also not giving up too early, of course. And then maybe a last one, which might be surprising. If you want to build a business and you are ready, then do it. Don't wait for a co-founder.
Yeah.
Of course, it's very nice to build something together. The long hours are shared, and it's tough. You can motivate each other. But finding the right co-founder is at least as difficult as finding the right partner for life.
It's like a marriage, I always say.
Absolutely, except that you spend even more time with the co-founder than the marriage. And the second thing is, if you have started and you have built something, even if it's small, and then you get a co-founder on board, then it's also clear that you are the majority shareholder. Then maybe the co-founder gets 10%, you're the founder. And that makes life much easier for you, and also more lucrative. course, if you have a co-founder and you say, look, that's the right combination, let's build something together, then it's cool and it can be very beneficial. I mean, at Maximum, we are co-founders, at Crypto Finance, we were co-founders, at SUSI Partners, I did it alone. And I got later a later coming co-founder in, which was a good solution for me. So that's a bit maybe, you know, you don't have to wait. If you feel ready to go for it, then things will come.
These are excellent tips. You speak a lot about mindset, which is so important as an entrepreneur. And then also the co-founder story for me was the same. I co-founded with somebody actually, and the person left just after founding. On good terms, everything was fine. But to me, then I had to experience the solo entrepreneur journey, and actually, I agree with it. For me, it was great starting like that. Toby, my last question, any big plans for the near future? Anything you're especially looking forward to?
Yeah, so I bought the ship, an icebreaker, a real icebreaker, and my plan is to visit all the blue zones. Blue zones are those places around the world where people grow very old and healthy, from Japan to Costa Rica. So I want to visit them. I think that is pretty much the coolest project I have ahead of myself. And why is it possible? Because nowadays with global internet available everywhere, Starlink, you can work. So it's not that you're just gone. You anyway don't need an office anymore, so you as well can work from a ship.
Fantastic. Yeah, there's a very great documentary on Netflix, which I'm sure many people have seen as well. Which blue zone are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, that's difficult to say. I mean, I have been in Japan, but I was not in Okinawa, which is in the south. Maybe really the Greek island Ikaria, which I haven't seen. I love the Greek islands, but all of them are very. That's why I want to see all of them. And I want to see, I'm not going there with like a scientific mindset that I need to do a study now, but I just want to dive in a bit and dwell in and see how people work, live, what they eat, and so on.
Yeah. Toby, it was a pleasure having you on the podcast today.
My pleasure.
Definitely let me know how the blue zones were, and I'm looking forward to see what comes in the future.
Let's do that. Thank you very much.